Hello everyone, I'm Eweni Cynthia. If you're new to my channel, hello, and if you're returning, welcome back once again. So in today's video, I'll be showing you all like everything how my day is going to be and what I'm grateful for so far. So I'm at Cape Coast Castle right now, as you can see. Let me like do a quick like 12 for you. Yeah, I couldn't vlog from like when I came from the house because it was quite early. It was like 5 a.m, 4:35 a.m in the morning, and I was so tired and sleepy. I'm going to show you. So I came out. I'm not alone. I came like in a group, with time, and we left Accra Mall, I think 5 6, and now we're at Cape Coast Castle. We had breakfast, and here we are now. So if we go inside the Cape Coast Castle, I would show you all like what's there, what's like in there. Hopefully it's worth watching. So guys, you know how it's always now, you come with me and we experience it together. So guys, stay tuned, don't go nowhere. So here we are, Cape Coast Castle, and I think this reception, that's my group over there. I don't know what this is, but I think we'll find. Okay, art market. So this is what you see when you come in. See my group. They're all pretty, right? Okay, that's actually the reception.
Okay, my wonderful families, I officially welcome you all to Cape Coast Slave Castle. My name is Tony Weji, and let's go right there. Let me give you a very brief introduction before we start. Please go. Now, because of the sun, I'm going to take you in a middle dungeon because of the sun and the noise. And when you get there, I'm going to give you a very brief introduction before you start. Please, the floor that leads to the middle dungeon is very slippery, so you take your time, you walk slowly. Listen. Slowly. Slowly, we are not rushing.
Okay, so we're in the middle dungeon?
Yeah, this is a middle dungeon. Slowly, we are not rushing, just take your time. Make sure you keep your balance. It's very important. Now, where we are right now is called a male slave dungeon. There are two dungeons here in Cape Coast Castle. Now, the male dungeon was established to hold as many as 1,000 enslaved African men. The female dungeon was established to hold as many as 500 African women. Now, when you go, I'm going to take you down there. You are going to see how the dungeon looks like. Please go. Slowly. Slowly, we are not rushing. Yeah, this is a middle dungeon. It's the whole of West Africa. Europeans built 3 slave castles. But it is so unfortunate that the 3 slave castles are located here in Ghana. And these are Eweni Slave Castle, Osu Slave Castle, and Cape Coast Slave Castle. Eweni Slave Castle was built by the Portuguese in 1482. That is the oldest and the largest slave castle in the whole of West Africa. Osu Slave Castle is also known as the Christian Box Slave Castle, established by the Danish in 1661. And this is Cape Coast Slave Castle, built by the British in the year 1665. Date-wise, Cape Coast Castle is the youngest slave castle. However, this slave castle is 356 years old. That should tell you a lot. Now, the first Europeans to come here to West Africa were the Portuguese. The Portuguese first got to Ghana in the year 1471. It was around 1482 that the Portuguese built Eweni Slave Castle. Technically, Eweni Slave Castle was not built for the transatlantic slave trade. That is why when you go to Eweni Slave Castle, you'll realize that the dungeons there are different than the dungeons here. This one was built specifically for that purpose. For over 95 years, or for over 100 years, the Portuguese that built Eweni Castle did not transport Africans directly from West Africa to the Americas. However, in the year 1492, there's this man we call Bartholomew de las Casas in the year 1492. And before Bartolomeo de las Casas came on the scene, there's this man we call Christopher Columbus, who claimed he discovered the Americas. Now, when that man discovered the Americas, the Europeans realized that they could cultivate sugar cane in that part of the world to produce sugar. Because sugar was very expensive, Europeans named sugar the white gold. So the Europeans were using the Native Americans as cheap laborers. But because the Native Americans were dying, due to the fact that the Europeans introduced many diseases into the Americas, there was one other man we call Bartolomeo de las Casas. He's a priest. He was trying to Christianize the Native Americans. In the same process, he was protecting them. However, because he realized that they were dying, he later introduced the Africans to the Europeans, that the Africans are very strong people. So Europeans should rather come for Africans in Africa. And that was the genesis of the transatlantic slave trade. You know what? There are many people, especially the global African diaspora, who do blame us Africans that we didn't sell them into slavery. I don't doubt that. I'm not saying that black people in Africa were not involved, but we need to explain this profoundly. If we know the how the Europeans got the Africans, we also have to know the why. Why did someone commit suicide? Why would black people bring their own people to the Europeans? Now, when the Europeans came to Africa, around that time, there were no geopolitical boundaries in Africa. When the Europeans came to Africa, the Africans were practicing what you call domestic servitude. There's a difference between domestic servitude and slavery. We were not chaining our own people. We were not keeping our people in dungeons. We were not changing the names of our people. But when the Europeans arrived in Africa, they capitalized on the systems in Africa and supplied into Africa two destructive weapons, which are gun and gunpowder. That is what provoked the tribal wars in Africa. Everybody was fighting. And this transatlantic slave trade lasted for 400 years. My wonderful families, here in the middle are 5 chambers or cells. First one right there, second, third, fourth, and last one. In each one of them were 200 men. Now, this is a very brief introduction. Now, this tour is just 45 minutes, and this history is 400 years old. You can talk, you can see everything. There are 4 identified chambers where we just came from. In each one of them were 200 men. 200 by 5 means there were 1,000 men in a male dungeon. It was in this male dungeon that the enslaved African men defecated. This is where they slept, this is where they ate. The conditions here were very poor. There was a wide spread of diseases such as malaria, cholera, diarrhea, cancer. Many enslaved Africans eventually got blind. Now, the only source of light on earth for 200 men in this chamber were the 3, I don't call them windows, I call them vents or holes. You know what's shocking? Right on top of the male dungeon, the English architects also built a church. And the name of the church is Society for the Propagation of the Gospel. I don't know what type of God they were worshiping there. Now, right there above our heads lies a very big hole. That hole is called the mouth of the walls of the castle. You know, each one of them were 200 men. So the English colonizers were very paranoid out there. They were not secure. They were very much afraid of the African men in the middle dungeon. And because of that, they intentionally designed holes just like that one. So in case that anytime the African men in the middle dungeon tried to break the doors, the noises would just pass through that hole out. Because of that hole, the English colonizers knew whatever that was going on in the middle dungeon. Look below this, the big hole. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Can you see 6 holes?
Yes.
Yeah. You know, the African men in the middle dungeon, especially the 200 men here in this first chamber, were very aggressive. They didn't like any white people to come here. Because of that, all the African men were being held in the first chamber were named strongholds because they were very dangerous. So in order to restrict their movement, the English colonizers chained some of them to the small holes below that hole, and there are 6 of them. Now, this is a trench. It was truly strange that anytime the African men passed water, it would just go through and eventually get into the ocean. I am about showing you something that is going to change your lives today. Please come this way. Do well to see the floor out there. Just make sure you see the floor of the second, third, fourth, and last chamber. Look carefully. Look at the floor of the first chamber. You see bricks, right? Do you see bricks out there? In the second, third, fourth, and the last chamber. You can see bricks there. It is nearly impossible to see bricks out there. However, the original floor of the entire male slave dungeon are the bricks we are standing on right now. This is the original floor. We were supposed to be seeing bricks out there. We were supposed to be underscoring bricks right there. But something happened here. Slavery lasted for over 300 years. Not globally. Globally for 400 or more. But here for over 300 years. Now because millions of enslaved African men were being held in a male dungeon, they defecated here. This is what we're eating. Many of them bleeded till they died. Because of that, their decomposition of feces, urine, blood, food remains, and decomposed human remains eventually form that darkened floor and cover the bricks. But in the year 1974, there was a group of archaeologists who came here. They came to the first chamber and excavated the floor of the first chamber. After the excavation was initiated, the darkened floor which was guarded in the first chamber was transported to Accra for further examination. And after the examination, the archaeologists were convinced that that darkened floor contains traces of DNA of human beings. The British that built this castle also built a church right on top of the mill dungeon. Why did Europeans build churches in the slave castles? People believe that they built the churches in order to advertise Christianity. They didn't come here to exploit. They came here to spread Christianity. So before they transport the Africans to the Americas, they did prepare them here. Because once Africans were being shipped off to the Americas, they were forced to accept the Christian religion. It's a psychological tactic. Brainwashing is a powerful tool. You can't teach your children what you don't know. You only teach them what you know. That is why we say information is very powerful, knowledge is very powerful. So they were actually preparing them here before they shipped them off there. Even Elmina Castle, the Portuguese that built Elmina Castle, it was later seized by the Dutch. The Dutch, after they seized the Elmina Castle from the Portuguese, they also built a church on top of the female dungeons. Let's look at the trench. This is what I like to show you. Look carefully. Look right. Yeah. So anytime the African men pass water, it will just go through and eventually get into the ocean. So that means that those in the first chamber who pass the water will just come to the second, third floor in that order. This is the original floor of the male dungeon. This is not.
Okay.
If we were to excavate this, we will eventually reach the bricks. Yeah. So this contains traces of food remains and DNA of human beings. Please come. Watch the steps, take your time, walk slowly. Okay, you see, back in the fourth chamber, I made mention of a very small cell, right? That's a small cell right there. Now, all the African men in the male dungeon who got weak, were left in that small cell to die. And after they died, the English colonizers would just trash them somewhere. Now, before what we are all standing lies an author, and this author is part of what we call the African traditional spirituality. There are 77 of them in Cape Coast. However, this one is the leader. And this altar is called Nana Kwame Nkra. The altar was established here after the abolishment of the slave trade. There used to be a very big tunnel right here, very huge one, very big tunnel. It was right here. It began from this small hole to there are two holes there, big one. When you go out there, you see it. It was through this tunnel that the English colonizers forced all the African men through to the door we call the door of no return. And the tunnel was sealed by one English governor called Captain George McLean in the year 1834 to officially mark abolishment. Based on the reefs, now we're going here by the global African diaspora, in order to pay respect to the ancestors who died in the middle dungeon, from the Caribbeans, Americas, and Europe. Barack Obama brought down. He blew this brief, July 2009. Any questions, please? Yes.
How old was the youngest enslaved people? Would have been maybe 16 years old?
Yeah, it started from, it was between 11 and 12.
If they looked old enough? Or?
Yeah, very small. But I think that some were younger than that. Because somebody could be like 8 years, but it look like a 15-year-old child. But some of the Europeans love the teenagers. I don't like to use the word child or children, teenagers, because they realize that we're very much easily to be manipulated or to be taken advantage of.
It's a long-term investment.
Yeah, it's a very long-term investment. So they took them when we were very young.
What is there a reason why there's more light?
There's more light. The reason is because you see that small cell right there. You see it right. Now, the African men, before they were being shipped off, this is where they physically examine them. They'll look at them. From the appearance, they could tell that this guy is blind, weak, sick. So they'll leave them there till they died. Those that were fit were forced through the tunnel to the door of no return. There are many walls. There are many walls. But, because of the years of manipulation, genocide, Europeans made a decision to treat Africans like animals. Not that they didn't know we were not human beings. They knew very well because the same missionaries who came here were still sexually abusing the African women in the female dungeons. So they knew very well. So don't feel like they thought that we were not human beings. They knew very well. But they decided to make that decision.
Was this place rebuilt?
No.
So was this
original?
This original?
Yeah.
So
every time you see the structure is original.
Where did they get limestone to create cement?
Where limestone?
Those.
There's no cement. The building you see, there's no cement.
Looks very.
What you see in the middle is not cement. This is not cement.
What are those?
This we call it oyster shells. Oyster shells.
Look very symmetric.
It's not.
Looks very symmetric.
Even this part, you might think it's cement. It's not. These are all not cement. It's not cement. This one in the middle, you might think it's concrete. This not. You can come and have a look, a closer look, please. Lime powder with oyster shells, this palm nut shells, and all of that.
It's so bad. Yeah, so that was the church on top of the male slave dungeon. The name of the church is Society for the Propagation of the Gospel. And right there lies a flag, this flag, which was unveiled by the ex-president of the US, Barack Obama, July 2009. A paid visit to the slave castle. Now, my wonderful families, because of the noise, let me take you to the punishment cell of the men. Control, please come. A very small cell. And this small cell is called the male punishment cell. However, I personally call this cell the male cell of no return. Back in the male dungeon were as many as 1,000 enslaved African men. The African men in the male dungeon tried to fight back for their freedom and right. However, all the African men who tried to fight back for their freedom and right were being held in this small cell. There are no windows in this small cell. They were all denied of food, air, light, and water till they died. Please take your time. Please come.
Down, down. Hands down, your head.
You're not that tall. Me especially. Whoa.
The first point.
Please come.
So there is a male punishment cell. There are no windows here. No windows at all. And there used to be 3 doors where we just came from. First door, the middle door, and the last door. All the African men in the male dungeon who tried to fight back for their freedom and rights were brought in here to die. No food for them, no light, no air, no water. They were here until they were all dead.
Buried alive.
Yes. Nobody goes out alive.
Let's go see the living rooms of the governor, okay?
I'm sure we'll come back here.
And when they do this, it prevented the waves to be violent. To the living rooms. Alright, so this place is the living room of the governor. And the living room of the governor has 9 windows. That's the bedroom of the governor. The bedroom of the governor has 5 windows. In totality, there are 14 windows for just one British governor. Now, I'd like to give you just 12 seconds. Take your time, have a look, follow the environment yourselves before you continue, please.
You can hear it.
Now, on the courtyard where we were right now, before coming here, live for identified graves. One of the graves is for black men. The other 3 graves are for Europeans. The black man is called Philip Kouakou. However, the name is pronounced Kouakou, not Kouakou. But because the English colonizers did mention his name, Kouakou, so Kouakou was anglicized to Kouakou. His father is called Riponkojo. His father used to work as a slave trader here in a castle. Because of that, when his son Philip Kouakou was 11 years old, the English colonizers here transported Philip Kouakou to London to study theology. Philip Kouakou became the first African to be ordained as an Anglican priest in London. He became a priest in the church on top of the male dungeon. Philip Kouakou promoted Christianity and a Western form of education. He was born in the year 1741. He died in 1816 at the age of 75 years old. Now there are 3 graves that are separated from the black man's grave. And these graves are for Europeans. The first one is for an English governor called Captain John McLeod. He was the one who sealed off the tunnel in the Nile dungeon. He died at the age of 46. Malaria killed him. And then next to his grave lies his wife's grave. The name of his wife is Letitia Elizabeth Lennon. She committed suicide in this bedroom at the age of 36. However, there are some historical disciples who claim that Letitia did not commit suicide, but it was the African mistress of her husband who poisoned her. And the 3rd grave is the lawyer of the castle. His name is C.B. Whitehead. He died at the age of 38 in 1812. We don't know what killed him. This was the church on top of the male dungeon, and this is the hole that is connected to the male dungeon. So the English colonizers will worship God in the church, and the same people come closer to the hole, we call the spine hole, and look at the African man in the male dungeon. We all don't know why.
You mean like
Yeah, they'll just go in the church. I mean, the English colonizers, they'll be in the church worshiping God, and the same people come right here, closer to the spy hole, and look at the African man in the male dungeon. It's very ironical. I made mention of a very big tunnel system. We're on top of the tunnel system. This is all part of the tunnel system. Now, those two holes right there are also spy holes, which are connected to the tunnel system. So the English colonizers did not allow the African men in the male dungeon walk through this courtyard to the door of no return. They rather chained all of them in the male dungeon and forced them through the tunnel system to the door we call the door of no return. And that is what I'm taking you to. But before you go, let me show you the exit. Be careful. Get down there. This is still the tunnel system. But this place is not where the African men came out from. This is not the exit of the tunnel system. This place is where the English colonizers would stand and urge the African men to keep walking through to the male slave, to the door of no return. Sorry, the door of no return lies right there. Now the English colonizers of Cape Coast Castle were very much afraid of the African men in the male dungeon. They were very afraid, so they didn't allow them to walk through this courtyard to the door of no return. They rather forced them through the tunnel system to the door of no return. And this is the security post where the English colonizers will stand and urge them, go, go, and the African men will keep going through to the door of no return. Now the cannonballs and cannons were the defensive tools used by the English colonizers because the Dutch, the French tried to attack them. So these were the defensive tools the English colonizers were using. Anytime the English colonizers realized that there were other Europeans who were trying to come and conquer them, they used the cannonballs and cannons as defensive tools. I one of the families, I would like to know if you have any questions. If you don't have any questions, yes, please.
What would happen if they refuse to keep on those shots?
The sound of a gun is enough to humble people. And before what you are all standing lies the tunnel system. Now this is how you look at a tunnel. Okay, watch on me back. You take a step like this, you have a look, you watch your head and you come out. Just a step. The tunnel is very deep. If mistakenly you get down there, I don't know how you get you out. So you take your time. If you think you're afraid, I can just take you down there to see the tunnel. We could just go right. Now we organize this an ongoing tour. So I'll give you a new tour. Standing right now, we were supposed to be seeing the male slave dungeon, but because the tunnel system got sealed up, that is why we are unable to see the tunnel system. Very small door we call the door of no return. Very small size-wise. I'm just demonstrating to you how the door of no return looks like. Very small door like this. So the English colonizers will force the African men in the male dungeon through the tunnel system. Here, they'll force them to the door of no return and kick them onto the big slave ships and transport them to the Americas. However, this door of no return got sealed up because the sea waves were very violent. And after this door got sealed up, that was not the end. There was another door that was established. So they'll bring the African men through the tunnel system, through this entrance, and then through the door of no return. We call that door the door of no return because that is where all these slave African people of Cape Coast Slave Castle made their last exit. The infamous door of no return. Please come. You are going there. 1,000 African men were grouped into various sections. You know, about 20 or 25 of them were on the same chain. The first person on the chain had to take a step before those behind him could make any movement. To force them walk through from the male dungeon to the exit of the tunnel system. But because that one got sealed up, this one was created. So they'll bring them here together with the African women to the door of no return. But this is a very small cell we call the female punishment cell. You know, you've already been to the male punishment cell. Back in the male punishment cell, die or to be killed, slowly and painfully in order to serve as a lesson to the others. But this place is quite different. There's a window for the African woman. That door you see right there is the door of no return. Closer to the door of no return lie two dungeons. These are the legal dungeons. In each one of them were 250 African women. So there were 500 women.
The African women in the female dungeons were constantly being sexually abused by the English colonizers here. However, there were some African women who didn't allow that. They tried to fight back. Now, if you're a woman in a female dungeon and you don't allow the English colonizers to sexually abuse you, they'll bring you in this small cell to punish you. There used to be a door right here. They locked them out. It was in this small cell the African women menstruated, they passed water, they were half naked, they used to be flies in this small cell. This place was hell.
It's part of the drainage system,
And then leave them to die the same.
No, to just punish them for a few days.
Pardon? Oh, not less than 10 women at the time. Yeah. The reason why I said few was because the African men didn't have that.
10 women stuck here.
Yeah. Oh, but they didn't care. 10 years old. 10 is a very small figure. Not a small figure. But you know what I mean. The Europeans killed many, millions. They killed millions.
The door of return was established in the year 1998 during a historical festival we call Panafest. Before the door of return was initiated, there were skeletons of two people we call Samuel Castle and Madame Krista, who were brought back to the motherland. Now, these two people I just made mention of were enslaved African people who were forcibly transported from the West African region to the Americas. Samuel Castle to New York, Madame Krista to Jamaica. They died and were buried there, respectively. In the year 1998, their skeletons or remains were exhumed from their graves and brought all the way from Jamaica and New York to Accra. From Accra, they transferred them to a place called Abanzi. From Abanzi, they brought them across the Atlantic Ocean through the door of return. This is a symbolic movement. This is to tell the global African diaspora that although the ancestors were forcibly transported to the New World, would never come back, but they being the descendant, the blood and the DNA of the ancestors can return to their motherland. That's the significance of the door of return. In the year 2019, which was the year of return, you know, the first Africans were taken to the northern part of America in 1619. And from 1619 to 2019 marks 400 years. And the year 2019 was the year of return. We had a lot of global African diaspora here in Castle, in Ghana. Steve Harvey was here, T.I., Beyonce's mother, Rhoda Craze, Boris Kujo, and many more. So, my wonderful guest, this is where I'd like to end my presentation. Please do not forget there are 3 slave castles in Ghana. They are very important. El Mina Slave Castle, which was built by the Portuguese in 1482, is the oldest and the largest slave castle in the whole of West Africa. Also, Slave Castle was established by the Danish in 1661, and Cape Coast Slave Castle was built by the British in 1665. Date-wise, Cape Coast Castle is the youngest slave castle, but this slave castle is 356 years old. Slavery is still going on in so many different ways and forms, and as a people, we have to come together to educate the younger generation so they don't repeat the mistakes our ancestors have made many centuries ago and the mistakes that we are still making. I truly appreciate your cooperation. This has been a privilege. And thank you very much. I wish all of you travel mercies. Thank you very much.
Did you enjoy the Cape Coast Castle tour?
Yeah,
Did
I enjoyed it, yeah.
Did you learn something?
It was just so touching and very emotional.
You're very emotional. Have you been to Elmina Castle? Mina Castle?
This is the first slave castle I've been to.
This is the first. Oh my goodness. Then if you go to Elmina, you cry. You actually shed tears. Like, if you haven't watched my Elmina Castle video, go watch it now.
And everything's like
guys, we are at Axim Beach Resort right now. As you can see, I'm so tired. I just want to sleep. Because we have, I think it's about 11 p.m. Like, we had a lot to do. We had dinner, and even there was a movie night. Imagine. Shout out to you, man. Only men can make this possible. And guys, I have to go sleep. Tomorrow we are going to Blue Moon and Saint Antonio Fort. You know about slave trade, right? So yeah, we'll be going there tomorrow. So stay tuned, guys. Don't go nowhere. See you in my next video. Bye.